Hello Steelers, and welcome to this video in which I'm going to show you how I painted these British 14th Army Infantry for Chain of Command. This is a platoon for Chain of Command, so this is 3 10-man sections with a boys anti-tank rifle and a 2-inch mortar, and then also 2 senior leaders as well. Now these are wearing the jungle greens of late 1943 onwards, for they were using in Burma. You could also paint these in the earlier khaki drill, which was dyed green, which faded much quicker, but I decided to go for the jungle green actual uniforms instead. These are figures from Peter Pig. They're all 15mm in size. These are not Golden Demon winners by any stretch of the imagination, but these are perfectly fine for tabletop gaming and for the 3-foot rule, which is what I live my painting life by. So, without further ado, let's jump in and I'll show you how I painted them. First thing is to base them, and I use 15mm diameter MDF bases. Just get these off the internet, off eBay. A dab of super glue and away you go. If you use anything bigger than this, it might swallow the figure up a little bit, so this is the perfect size, I think. The next stage is then to blend the figure's base into the actual MDF base itself, and I use polyfiller, or spangle as it's called in the US, with a flat-headed screwdriver and just slowly build up around the figure's base itself. This just makes it look a lot better and it's worthwhile doing. It's a bit boring, just stick on a podcast or even one of my videos and work away on quite a few of these figures at once. Then the next stage is to make sure you prime the figure, and I'm doing this in white. You can do it in any colour you want, but I find white is very good because it allows for a bit of brightness on the paints to go over the top of it. And for 15mm, that's quite important when you're looking at them from quite a far way away on the tabletop. I'm using a brush, a largish brush here, just for Vallejo white. If I was doing a lot of these at once, I would use a rattle can and just get them all sprayed, or even an airbrush, whichever way is quickest and whichever way suits you. So now we're on to the block colouring once the primer has dried, and here, because I'm using jungle green, I'm doing this in a green, and I'm using quite a big brush and going over all the figures so I get into all the nooks and crannies. This is Russian Uniform from Vallejo. I'll put a list of all the paints that I use in the description below with an affiliate link, but this is quite a nice faded green colour, and it's pretty perfect for the jungle green that I described before, especially for the non-dyed khaki drill that they used. This is a little bit slightly darker than that stuff. And then it's time to paint the hands and faces, and this I'm using Vallejo's Sunny Skin Tone. If I was doing the King's African Rifles or Gurkhas, obviously I would change the colours that I was using for this, but for these I'm just doing some British soldiers first of all for my first platoon, so that's what it's going to be. It's the Sunny Skin Tone. It's quite a nice, almost sunburnt looking skin tone as well, so it works quite well for Burma and for those exotic places. The next thing to do is to paint the base, so this is using Vallejo's Flat Earth, so using a slightly larger brush than I would be for the detail. I'm just painting this all over the base and all over that polyfiller and the primer as well. Just make sure you cover everything so you don't see any white. We are going to cover this in static grass later on, but it's always worth at least having a base colour as well. A brown is a much better base colour than green when you're using static grass, that I've found. This is a nice and quick stage, just using black, just paint those boots. Just try not to go over the flat earth if you can. It doesn't matter so much if you do at this point, we're only block painting. You can always go back at the end and just cut in again with any other colours that you may have splayed over onto some of the other colours. But this is just a dead simple, easy thing to do. And then it's time for those jungle hats, and for this I'm using English Uniform by Vallejo. You can, if you really want to, paint the little headband on these, but I found that it just got covered up by the wash anyway later, so I don't bother. Just paint the hat as it is. Then using Beige Brown, I'll start to paint all the wooden stocks and things on weapons. So this is the Lee Enfield that this guy is carrying, or any of the Bren guns, or the stocks on the Bren guns, that kind of thing. This is a really nice wooden colour, especially for weapons when they've been oiled. And this is the biggest part of the painting on these figures. This is Iraqi sand, and I'm painting all the canvas webbing, his puttees, his ammo packs on the front, and also his bag on the back as well. Now these were later actually dyed green in the jungle green colour, so if you really wanted to, you could just go and paint these in the same base colour that you use for the jungle green. In my case, this is Russian uniform. However, I just wanted them to stand out a little bit on the table, and also some of the guys would have been wearing some of the older kit even as new stuff was filtering to the front lines. So it's quite alright to be painting them in these different kind of colours. But I'm just painting everything basically so that you can see there his water bottle holder, also the pack as well at the back, and as I say, his puttees as well around his ankles, which I'm just about to paint there. You can see using a very small brush for this, just to try to get those details, and any of the other webbing as well. And our very last bit of the block colouring is painting the gunmetal on his rifle or any of the other weapons. So that's the end of the barrels and also the bolt parts of it as well. And next up is my favourite stage. This is the AGRAX earth wash stage. So using this stuff straight out of its bottle and a largish brush, simply slop it all over the figure. You will probably be terrified that you're covering all of that detail up, but I promise you this will work, and we are going to highlight it straight after it has dried. And the first stage in that highlighting is going back to the flesh again with the original sunny skin tone and just going over the highlights, some of the raised areas, so the arms, just bringing them out just so you have at least got a little bit of the AGRAX and the original colour showing through as well. I will also re-highlight in the jungle green, or the Russian uniform that I used before. I'm afraid I didn't video that for some reason, but here I am highlighting the hat with the English uniform again, but it's basically exactly the same. Just hit all the highlights, the bits where you can see the creases are slightly higher than the other parts. Then the final stage was to varnish these. I use Winsor & Newton Professional Arts matte varnish on these because it's the best on the market as far as I'm concerned. Then I will add undiluted PVA to the bases, just painted that on, and then sprinkle static grass over the top of those, and once that dry you are finished. There you go, that's your 14th Army ready to fight in Burma, the forgotten army of the Second World War. And as you can see, I've also got some helmeted guys in there. I will use bronze green on those helmets and any painted equipment like the mortars, for example. And this is, as I say, a platoon for chain of command. If you are basing these individually, this is the way I would go about it. If you're basing these in multiples, then just use a larger base and also use that polyfiller, but I would probably do it last to avoid getting any paint on the figures. However, if you've enjoyed this video, please do check out my other videos on the channel. Please do have a think about subscribing to my Patreon as well. All the money helps towards producing more videos in the future. And also just, if you haven't, do subscribe to the video and the channel itself. Thanks for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please leave me a comment below, give me a like, and I will see you in the next video.